Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Water Cooler Chat, where we talk about all things Livepeer, whether orchestrating, delegating, broadcasting, transcoding, or AI inference. We're here to ask questions and get answers. Today we got a couple topics ahead of us, mostly around the Treasury proposal of Fanteasy and the role of the Guardian for the Stream project. The Stream contract. With that being said, this probably has probably a short meeting this time, but if you have any more topics, I see Rumbling Thunder has an extra topic. Go ahead and type it in, Rumbling Thunder. Please type in your topic and we'll get to you as well. So I'd like to start off by going over the role of the Guardian. So this is a contract, a smart contract that I put together to assist the Treasury in the way and the method of handing out funds from the Treasury. So for those that don't know what the payment stream contract it is, basically I wrote a blog post about it and how it works. And the way it works is instead of having lump sum payments come out of the Treasury, there's this smart contract that sits in between the end user, and it slowly releases the funds over a period of time. For the Fanteasy project specifically, it does it over 7 months. And so, you can set this time, the time when you deploy the contract, you can set the amount of the time that it would take for all the Treasury tokens or all the tokens in the smart contract to be released. So for Fanteasy, 7 months. And as it approaches as it continues on, it slowly allows and unlocks more LPT to be withdrawn out of that escrowed smart contract. In doing so, there's also an escape hatch, and this escape hatch is where 2 guardians are assigned that have the ability to call the terminate function on the smart contract, which would then, if 2 out of 3 signatures land or get executed, then the funds get sent back to the Treasury. And so I'll quickly clarify. It is a 2 of 3 multisig. The third multisig is actually the recipient of the funds. So the recipient of the funds, it likely won't happen, but if one guardian decides to call the terminate function, and for whatever reason that the payee of the smart contract wanted to terminate the funds, they could also call that function. They're technically actually the recipient of the funds is technically one of the guardians too, which makes 3 guardians. But but there's 2 external guardians. If they both sign the terminate contract, the terminate function, all the current unclaimed tokens in that contract get sent back to Treasury. This brought up an interesting question around the role of the Guardian. Right? So for Fanteasy's proposal, Authority, Null, and myself are the Guardians for the contract. Authority agreed to step up and take on the new role, even though it's still being debated and fleshed out as to what responsibilities of the role are. I reached out to a couple other people who could be people that would want to, to 2 other people, seeing if they wanted to be guardians. But I think there was not much clarity as to what the role of the guardian is and how much time commitment it is. And that brought up the question of okay, what do I tell these people? What is the role of the guardian? And then Fanteasy, specifically Eugene's proposal, talked about how the guardians would be tracking the milestones and sending back funds if Fanteasy doesn't reach their milestones. So I really want to dive into this concept, because when I first created the stream contract, the role of the guardian, it was you could do milestone based achievements, but it was more of an escape hatch for clearly bad things that we don't want happening, right? So I made a quick post about this in the governance channel. Basically, you know, the role of the Guardian is to protect against fraudulent projects, right? So someone comes in and says, "Hey, I've got this project or this open source, a good community, public good that I want to build." And it's just fraud. It's just a marketing scheme to get funds from a treasury. They have no capability of doing the work. They have gone down a very deep into trying to earn tokens with no actual substance. And so the first kind of role the Guardian is to protect against something like fraud. So we avoid lump sum payments where people can take off with the money and disappear. Another example is bad actors. So, maybe they're taking these funds and they're doing some sort of weird manipulation, or they are they commit crimes with the funds, or things like this. We can as a community decide that this individual or entity should have their funds stopped. And then lastly, it was unforeseen events, right? So, exactly what it means. Unforeseen events like the team disbands, the contract or the recipient of the funds, their wallets get compromised and so we have an ability to actually save the recipient's funds, because if their wallets get compromised and they're only a month into their vesting stream, we could actually return the money back to the treasury, redo another proposal with a new, entity's address, and we've actually saved the public good from their own, maybe insecurity, right? So, and so these, if you can imagine, these are all things that were external to the actual proposal. So these were things that helped the treasury become more robust. So those are my ideas around what the Guardian's role was. Now, and I think from my understanding, most people would be pretty on board with that. I think there wouldn't be much pushback into that that role of the Guardian. Where now things get interesting is the role of the Guardian to determine milestones. And this is something that I want to tread very carefully, because the role of the Guardian would be you'd have to be a qualified person. And I think the role of the Guardian is actually not to be someone who's qualified. I think the role of the Guardian is for someone to be unqualified, is actually just to be a good citizen in the community. And there doesn't have to be expertise on behalf of the Guardian. The Guardian can, if it's clearly fraudulent, they're just the ones that have the ability to pull the trigger and execute what the community thinks is. That's my interpretation of what the Guardian's role is. As for milestones, I actually think that's out of the scope of the Guardian's role. I think that's actually more the scope of the Treasury's role, the LPT holder's role of funding the project in the first place, right? And or we have the Guardians listening to the community and acting on behalf of the community based on what they're hearing. So another, as for milestone achievement, it's not just the Guardian who's looking at the project saying yes or no, but rather the Guardians are listening to the greater community during, say, these water cooler chats, and simply just execute what the community thinks based on its expertise, right? So it's not on the Guardian's head to do the digging to find out if it's reaching its milestones, but rather it's simply just the executor of wants. So, so that's my interpretation of the guardian role. Now, I've been talking a lot, sorry, but it is it is the thing I deployed. Would anyone like to provide some feedback on the role of the guardian? Whether they agree with my ideas, or whether it should be more integrated into reaching milestones? Does anyone else want to provide their comments?
Yeah, I'd like to chime in.
Yeah, go ahead.
So based on the conversation last week, I've put together a white paper and a proposal that outlines business process engineering. That's really what we're talking about in the industry. And it outlines the process and personnel to achieve all of these goals. And the premise of it is based on analyzing the infrastructure, the investment strategies, and the interfaces that will be needed to complete any project. So within that, the infrastructure, we could develop templates that will give you specific roles of who are the people that are needed to be hired to bring the project to fruition.
Okay. And how does that relate to the guardian role?
So a guardian would be a role as a part of the infrastructure. You would ideally you would need more than just a guardian. And the application is developed off the premise of being a proposal management system. So it would be a database that people would put, their particulars in, and then the application would deliver a template and a analysis of the project's feasibility, roles that are needed, and also possible investment.
Yeah, but
Strategy.
what are you actually saying, man?
What am
What
I
are
actually
you?
saying?
Yeah, what is the point?
The point is to establish defined roles for the entire project. Whether that be a project manager, brand manager,
Yeah, but
community.
that's for individual companies, startups, and projects to define. We're talking about Treasury proposals specific to the guardian role that is being assigned through a volunteer contract that was created to handle these kinds of things. I'm not sure where you're
Yeah.
going with your stuff, but it'd
Well,
be great to keep it on topic.
okay. Well, that's I promise it's on topic. Inside the app, individual would dictate whether their proposal is public or private, and then based on that, we would develop templates to say what roles needed to be assigned, and Guardian would be one of them as a liaison to oversee how the spending is being done.
Okay, so just let me just so I can recap. What you're saying is you're building a system to generate a template that people who are looking to do ask for treasury funds, they could, before they submit to the treasury, they could go to this platform, and it would help guide them through the process of putting together a proper treasury proposal. Is that what you're saying?
That and it would also give you a projection of who might be needed, and also what funds or grants to apply for, or if it would be better suited to apply for a treasury role.
Sure.
And also, this app would function for proposals that have received funding so that we can assess their feasibility.
Yeah. Okay, great. No, that sounds good. I like that there's an initiative to help guide people through a pipeline of where to go for funding. I'd like to try and keep just the topic of the guardian alive, the role of the guardian. So, just to reiterate, the role of the guardian, as I stand it, as I originally put, was to protect treasury funds, right, from things like fraudulent actors. The question just becomes: is the guardian's role? Should the guardian's role be around evaluating milestones. And so just a couple comments here in the chat. Sandra says, sorry, my mic is a little off. Some initial thoughts. How will clearly fraudulent be determined? This needs to be fleshed out, even form and opinion. I mean, yeah, right. Clearly fraudulent. That's a good question. I don't know. How is something clear? I mean, have they completely ghosted the community and not done anything, or I don't know. But I think, okay, so just to in my opinion, the payment stream contract fends off the fraudulent actors before they even apply for funding, right? So if you ask for a lump sum of money, it's easy to be a fraudulent actor because you immediately get the funds and then you leave. So by going through a payment stream in itself, I think is actually what might fend off most of the fraudulent actors. So I think that's almost like like the way it works is by not actually acting upon the guardians, but just the fact that they're there and the way the system works, it prevents more fraudulent actors because they know that a month in, it's not we can reverse the funds. So, but yeah, how do we clearly define fraudulent? I don't know. So yeah. Brad says, here's a link for the forum post for the framework/template. I can click on that. And here it is. This is the link to what Rumbling Thunder had put forward. So we'll have to look at that in a sec. Thank you for the link, Brad. Vincent says, hey, I'm here. I'm new. I just want to give me a small hint on what the meeting is about. Vincent, thank you for joining. I'll do a quick caveat. Thank you for joining us. We are talking about all things Livepeer. So the Livepeer token, the Livepeer project, the Livepeer ecosystem, anything to do with Livepeer. We're here to ask questions, get answers. Feel free to hop up on stage and join in on the conversation. I'll invite you up. If you have questions, we can definitely answer them. Currently, we're on the topic of Treasury votes and the role of the Guardian. So you're probably not familiar with that is. So once we get to the end of this topic, we're happy to get some input and questions you might have. So yeah, thank you for joining us, Vincent. Rumbling Thunder says, this application would provide protocols that vet projects specifically to eliminate fraud, waste, and abuse. Brad. Yeah. So yeah, anyway, the Guardian's role, I mean, how do you prevent fraud? It's not going to be easy, but I think it's a lot easier to determine fraud than it is to determine milestones of projects. Or right? So I'm just wondering from the community, do we want the Guardian role to be in charge of milestones? Or is that a community-led thing where we tell the Guardian our opinions?
I'm not sure you can separate it 100% there. Like the community's going to have a voice. They're going to say, "Hey, XYZ project hasn't done anything or has done some things, but not what they said." Like let's take a example of developing branding or something that's not really concrete, like adding 1,000 streams, right? The proposal will say, well, we're going to develop some branding, rebranding, or new branding, or alternative branding, and 1,000 LPT is going to be spent on that, right? The deliverables likely proof of that it's live or it's on the website or that it's available. And then the Guardians just have to confirm that. But the only two people that opinions that really matter are the Guardians. We can all disagree. We could all agree that we should cancel the contract, but the two Guardians don't. then they don't have to, right? There's nothing binding them.
Right. So we would be having to trust the guardians to act
Yeah.
in conjunction with what the community does, and so therefore we should have the guardians be qualified to make the execution regardless of what people think.
But I think it should be, I mean, ideal situation, the milestones should be easy to vet, or it should be easy to say, yes, that's done. It should not be vague. It should not be opaque. It should be clearly defined. What are you doing? I mean, even adding payment processing or, like subscriptions, that should be something that can be figured out that they're doing it, or at least to some reasonable amount of security that they're doing that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, I don't think the Guardians are paying the people, but they're just making sure that the funds are actually going to what they should be going to. Because once the funds are available, you can't really, once they cash it out to pay normal people in the world, right? Outside of Web3, you can't really track it that well.
Right, and so you would say something like in the deliverables of the milestone, there would be a
Yeah.
clear example of like what any user could do that would justify this like a payment processor. Like you can go onto the website, you can submit a payment, whatever, crypto or fiat or whatever you want, and it goes through, and that item is complete. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's never going to be 100% perfect, but yeah, it's just got to be clear. It's all it's got to be, whatever the milestone and deliverable may be.
and then you would say that then at that point it's the guardian's discretion only whether they reach the milestone.
Yes. Now, how that guardian decides to make that decision is up to them. They could wholly rely on the community and say, put up polls or whatever they want to do to get the feel of what the community wants to do, and they could just act as a vessel for the community. Or they could say, you know what, I believe in this more. Maybe they're a little behind. I'm gonna let it go for a little bit and figure it out from there. Because the other part of this is best laid plans get blown up all the time for various reasons outside of everyone's control or in your control. You just didn't foresee it, but it is something maybe you should have foreseen.
Right. Okay. So based on that, then you would have to ask the question. Then there's two questions that come to my mind. One is then who is qualified to be a guardian, that role? And then the second would be who appoints the guardians? Because that is another thing. Did the projects just appoint their own friendly guardians, or are we, appointing guardians
No,
that are
I
going to
don't.
be
I think the Treasury I think that's a community thing. Because, and I say it's a community thing because nobody's going to vote for anything that they just install their own people, right? These two, whatever addresses that nobody knows about is going to be the guardians. They're going to make sure we do it, right? Nobody's going to vote for that. It's going to have to be somebody trusted in the community to do it.
based on that. Is the guardian a paid role where we have guardians who are elected to be the guardians for every project because then there's consistency?
The question would be paid by who,
The
or
Treasury
what?
through a
You can't
payment
be
stream
paid by the
contract.
project though. Like project can't say, "Hey, I'm going to give you 1,000 of this or 10% of this." Like just
Okay.
just work with me here, right? That doesn't that kind of defeats the whole purpose.
All right.
Uh,
The
but
Treasury does a
I think,
payment
and
stream.
to go to your first question about who's qualified to do this, I think a guardian is qualified if they understand what the deliverables or milestones are. If they can say, I think I can approve these milestones, and they're qualified. I don't know that the milestones or deliverables are gonna be technical, but guardians can always ask for help. Not, I don't know if they'll get it, from community members, but they can always ask for help. Hey, help me figure this out, or help me look at this type of deal, right? Like I wouldn't, if it's a very, very technical implementation of a new media server, I don't know that I'd be okay as a guardian, right? Yeah, I can see network is getting sent back and forth. And I have no idea if it would actually function at any kind of scale, you know?
Right. Okay, Osmond said, it'd be a gray area, especially with milestones, but there's no better way. It will be carried out by general talking, the mood of the community about the project as it progresses. It's too much to load everything on the shoulder of the guardians. They are just policemen holding the suspect, not the judge. Okay, interesting take. By the way, I like your first one, which is like, this is a gray area with milestones, but there is no better way. Reminds me of that quote. It's like, democracy is the worst form of government, with the exception of every other form of government.
I mean, ideally, it'd be the DeFi way. Everything just auto liquidates, right? If, if the things weren't delivered upon.
Yeah, that won't go wrong.
It won't go wrong for the Treasury, but it could definitely go wrong for the projects that got the funding.
Auto liquidate on oracles. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah.
Oracle hacks? Nah, that'll never happen. Yeah, right. So pretty yeah, well, yeah, so that's interesting. Another opinion, Sandra says, how do you prevent / safeguard against guardians colluding with an applicant? Should there be a community reset switch? Oh boy, here we go. Here we go. We got politics, bureaucracy, bribery.
I mean, that's where it comes into. You have to, the community has to have a trust of the people that are the guardians, and that trust can get burned and go sideways. It's 100% possible.
Yeah, how do we know that Ben wasn't so eager to take on the guardian role because he's colluding? I'm picking on Ben because he can handle it.
It's like, what did Ben do?
Yeah, what did Ben do?
Hey,
I'm literally in the same boat. I'm the other guardian. So
you should pick on me. I'm the one that said probably not.
Brad, the only reason I'm in this seat is because you said no.
No, you said yes before I said no, bud. At least
I
I understand.
don't
That's
know
how I
about
understand
that.
it. I
Have
have
to vote on this.
a little too much stuff going on right now. I feel like I don't think this is a good thing to add. That's just kind of where I sit on it.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm worried as well. Is I said yes, but depending on what this role requires, I also have quite a lot going on. So just sort of listening in here and seeing what the community thinks.
yes, well, I've set Ben to the fire by getting him to sign up for something that he has no idea what he signed up for. And myself, I've signed up for something that I don't even know what I've signed up for, even though I've like created the smart contract. I'm the one who deployed the smart contract, but I still don't know what it means.
He just lit the rockets. Just hold on.
Yeah.
as you keep going.
So, yeah, but okay. So I just want to go a little more high level. I do think so. I think everyone agrees that this type of a contract. I mean, just based on like the feedback we're getting, like it sounds like this type of contract makes sense for Treasury proposals, right? It gives it an extra degree of safeguarding of Treasury funds. And that was my goal. Now we can get into how do we guard the guardian? How do we watchtower the guardians so that the guardians are safe? And how do you get a guardian for the watchtower that watches the guardians who watches the like and then how do you elect the guardians from the Treasury with 2 more guardians who watch the guardians, right? So, okay, this is
there's got to be trust at some step here,
right? And so but funny enough, without this contract, it literally is just a lump sum payment.
I don't think most of us would vote yes for a lump sum payment.
I think
like this.
think most people. Does anyone else have an opposing opinion on whether a lump sum payment would be better, or someone that doesn't trust the smart contract, or any reason why this is just a bad bad route to go down? Because now we're digging in the weeds. Osman says the community will say release the funds or nope. The Guardians will do 0 or 1, deciding whether 0 or 1 is too much to load on the shoulders of two people, especially with Miles.
I mean, this becomes a community. Like if the community really wants the Guardians to end the time release contract, it becomes sort of like a political game where they're going to have to start campaigning for it, getting support, talking with the Guardians, you know. But I feel like if the milestones are relatively clear, or pretty clear, and they keep delivering on those from the original vote, I think the Guardian has a good place to stand, saying they're doing what they said they were doing. You know,
And like, yeah, no, continue.
go ahead.
I was gonna say if I do want to caveat like if the Treasury has agreed to give the funds, like the Treasury has agreed to give the funds, right? Like I know that the Guardians are have some power, but if all the funds went to the end recipient of the proposal, like the Treasury did exactly what it voted on, right?
Yeah.
So again, I think the Guardian's role is more of just like an escape hatch in case something goes wrong, or I guess milestones aren't even being tempted, right? This another comment from Sandra. I feel the reversal of funds ought to be community vote. We got humans, or that Ben wants a Russian mate. Okay, so we're gonna have
not read that last line.
Listen, or what happens is are we gonna have in Treasury votes on Treasury votes of reversal of funds? Like now we're gonna end up with voter fatigue and we could have we could have LPT holders. You can run a vote to have all LPT holders vote on whether funds should be returned, but to get quorum of 33%, I mean, look how hard it is to even get. Let's see, what is the last one? Livepeer, the Livepeer pioneers community, they only got 55% participation of votes, right? Like to get people to vote, and all it takes is orchestrators to do the voting. We don't even need delegators to do the voting. These are orchestrators. Like, how have we only gotten 55% of orchestrated LPT voting? Like, I think the role of Guardians is so necessary because otherwise you just won't get any real opinion. If you were to use LPT holders to be the collective guardian. I don't know if that's what you're talking about, Sandra, but just thinking out loud. Yeah. By the way, I don't know if two guardians was the right answer. I was just making stuff up as I go. So
how does that work if you wanted to increase that to say 4 Guardians? So there'd be three extra people plus the receiver. Would that be right? Or is 2 Guardians? No, it'd be 4 Guardians. There would be 5 total addresses.
You'd
right?
have to rewrite the factory contract.
So it's not just a 2 to 4 variable.
No, no, it's a hard coded string or hard coded list. So yeah, it's. I asked the developer could we make it like an elastic list, and he's like, yeah, it's just gonna take a lot more work, a lot more lines of code, and
Yeah.
And the problem is now the audit becomes Like, I think that would add probably twice as much lines of code,
Yeah.
and the audit would just start spiraling out of control. And so I was like,
Got it.
well, if I'm paying for the developer and the audit, we're going hard coded too. Like, you know,
So they
Right.
can't be switched out once they're put in for a project.
they can't be switched out, and the number of guardians can't be switched.
Lovely.
So if we ever wanted to deploy, I mean, but you could easily just add more guard. If you took the source code and added more guardians, just hard coded more guardians in, like I don't think you would need to re-audit it. You would just be adding 3 more variables and changing the, instead of 2 of 3, it would be, 5 of 6 or whatever. I don't think it would be hard to adjust, but it would then be out of scope of the audit.
Right.
So yeah, I just picked 2. 2 seems. Osmond says, how does Avalanche go about this kind of thing? Fanteasy, you said Avalanche has funding too. You want to speak on that?
Yeah, but on the Guardians, I would also say that if you are familiar with NoticeSafe, multi-sig smart contract based wallet, they do have like this administrative actions as well, where you can swap out the addresses, where you would also do two out of 3, let's say, for administrative actions. But that's added complexity. Who's going to be doing that? I think for now it's simple enough for everyone to use, and it gets us to a better place. The smart contract.
Oh yeah,
Avalanche.
there's an infinite
Um,
amount of
yeah,
complexity we can add.
yeah.
So it's the beginning.
On Avalanche, yeah, I'm taking actually a huge risk telling you that I work for Avalanche, but this is how much commitment I have to this project. That if I were to choose between my work at Avalanche and Fanteasy, I'm still gonna go with Fanteasy. It's certainly not a lot of people know what I'm working on, and they have like grants, and sometimes their grant is like $1 million, but it would be a big conflict of interest for me to apply for an Avalanche grant working for Avalanche. So yeah, maybe I shouldn't have taken that risk. Yeah.
The question was more around, I think the question was more around the process of how Avalanche does funding. Do they have this type of vesting? They have community votes. Like, how does that ecosystem handle public good funding?
Oh, yeah, they have 5 different entities. It's a very complicated hierarchical system that they've built, and they do. I think the entity that's doing funding is called BVI. It's on one of the Caribbean islands, and they issue grants, and it's a lump sum. Actually, my team is tasked with improving this, so we're also kind of thinking about smart contract based, architecture. But for now, it's just a lump sum, and from the time you're approved for the grant from Avalanche, it might take like 6 months for them to actually execute the transaction. So it's not a role model,
Right. So it's bureaucratic and slow, and then it ends up being a lump sum at the end anyway.
And just like every governance, unfortunately.
Right. And so maybe we could set the pace of, instead of things being bureaucratic and slow, we could do 10-day treasuries, and then let the guardians do more of the bureaucratic stuff and say, hey, at least we got things rolling. But then that puts more pressure on the guardians. Maybe I should stop saying that.
Yeah, of course, for us to be the early adopter of this, we would actually need to get LPT there, but that's not the case right now. We're at like 44%.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, good. Hopefully that answers your question, Osman. Rumbling Thunder says guardians should be subject matter experts. Yeah, not easy. Even Ben reached out and said, hey, we should have one person who's a technical expert. So I said, okay, let me message some technical expert people. And every one of them is like, I can't do it. Like, okay, running out of time, and I don't know who's a subject matter expert on building an adult live streaming website or platform. So, Rumbling Thunder, if you have any suggestions on who can be an expert in this,
On that particular project, no, I don't have any knowledge on adult industry.
yeah.
Just about everything else, entertainment wise, yeah, I have information on that, but adult stuff, no.
I don't think you need to be an expert in like that high level sort of what is the project, but it's more like Brad said, where you need to know what these milestones are and you need to be able to identify if the project has completed them. And that's sort of where I recommended that an engineer is part of the Guardian team because you need someone technical to understand some of the more technical milestones. But yeah, I don't think I don't need to know a ton about porn or OnlyFans to be able to be a guardian for Fanteasy, I don't think.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's where the subject matter experts would be technical, financial. It just depends on, the makeup of the Livepeer network. I'm not, abreast to everyone's talents and skill sets.
I would like to say though, the milestones, it's all primarily technical, and it's just a streaming platform, right? The fact that we target adult, it could be, mental health or anything else. It's like you can just go and test if everything is working.
Right. So they're
Yeah,
not
so
subject matter
Mm.
experts, but rather just technical experts.
but like as a kind of a counter to the subject matter experts, like Fanteasy, as an example, could develop a discovery search suggestion algorithm that's terrible, doesn't work, right? That still satisfies the milestone. They made one in general, right? And I I think when you need like really expert people, it's going to be more along like if the deliverables and the milestones are super technical things. I don't think we're trying to get into this is not fostering the startup. Like we're not trying to be the VC to like guide them and shepherd them. We're just trying to help them get going and build on top of the Livepeer network and thus increase streams and increase our demand side. That's kind of like a layman's way of looking at it, but does anybody disagree with that?
No, that's spot on. And the app that we're building will be ran by bots. So these bots would essentially act in these roles as the subject matter experts, and just we can determine that beforehand so that we can kind of dictate the outcome of what the templates look like.
Bots. What do you mean by bots? Like
Uh,
just pre-designed like bits of code that say yes, no kind of deal, or what?
yeah, just create like specific GBTs that analyze specific information and that have standard templates to give as an answer or a suggestion or a solution. But this is where like
And
looking
you're talking
into,
about how like generating the proposal. Is that right?
I'm talking about generating templates in the realm of like this business process engineering, which really is just outlining specific roles that are needed to accomplish the task, and then outlining what what those roles entail.
So
So
that's like refining the milestones into deliverables, or refining the deliverables into something that makes sense. Is that right? Is
yes,
that another way to say it? Okay,
yes.
I got you.
We got a lot of comments. I'm going to keep coming down because I want people that are chatting in chat to be heard as well. So sorry if I step in. Leet says the only other option I see for accountability to the community would be a smaller, short-lived treasury proposals. If the community wanted to terminate a milestone-based contract, I could see a Treasury vote being used to capture that sentiment on chain before guardians take action to revoke it. Yeah, I mean, this is interesting. Again, this requires more voting on chain, and like voting on chain is like voter fatigue. It's a real thing. You have to be careful of too many votes, especially for recurring things.
Does it have to be on chain? I mean, Discord has a poll feature now. You could just run community sentiment polls in Discord without going on chain. Just keep it simple.
Oh, so you could just do community sentiment polls on chain and then, or sorry, on Discord, and based on those, the guardian, terminates the contract.
Yeah, I mean, they'd be public. Everyone would be able to see the results and who voted and go from there.
Until the bots show up. So the bots.
Or you'd lock it down,
Nah.
be in a private channel or something.
Yeah.
Titan's gonna have to go through one by hand. Nope, bad vote.
Dude.
3,000 submissions.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Interesting idea. That's might be a solution. Yeah. Osman says this is where decentralization is potentially slowing things down. This is where a CEO or COO or a division head deciding on final decisions would come in handy. Now, naturally, it's almost going to be like another voting process every time the leg of a fund will be released. Maybe we should just trust and let guardians do the judgment and all get compensated for the job. Yeah, this is where Doug came in and basically mentioned like this should be an SPE. This should be an entity that does the vetting of these particular like projects, which helps figure that problem out. But I want to rephrase. Imagine if Fanteasy was just a public good. Like this still exists. This idea of like proposals like I mean, let's take Fanteasy off the table for a sec. Let's just look at the one that literally passed a day ago, or no, today. It just passed today, which is the Livepeer Pioneers community, right? So that's not an SPE, or it is kind of an SPE. They're a public good trying to educate people on Livepeer, right? Voted through, and do we need a? Yeah, I don't know. So do we need a CEO or anyone to do that? Like, yeah. But yeah, I do agree, Osman. Decentralization definitely can slow things down in bureaucracy. Vincent says, do you guys do initial and final payments on grants? That has worked well for me in the past, basically retroactive grants. Yeah, we have a retroactive grant program, and we have like a proactive grant program. So those two exist, but for Fanteasy's use case, it's actually right in the middle because they don't qualify for the proactive because they're not like a public good, like they're not open source, and they don't qualify for the retroactive because they haven't driven traffic yet. So they put forward a proposal to ask for funding for the project directly to the Treasury.
I have a question. What constitutes as driving traffic?
Fees paid on the network.
Copy that.
I would say also like
Yeah, and
go ahead.
yeah, so the Doug's comment on SPE and all of that. I totally understand that, there's a better way of doing this. There's always a better way of doing it. And I feel like I guess our public good in this case is just being the catalyst to have these conversations, being the early adopter of the stream contract. So we're basically doing everything we can within the current framework. But yeah, I mean, there is a better way of doing it, perhaps in the future. That my ask from the community is to just not kind of, if you've done your due diligence, you think it's a good project, Fanteasy, that don't sacrifice this right now, because timing is very important. But we would gladly be involved in kind of fine tuning this process in the future. So that's what I would say.
Just want to remind people, Fanteasy is a long time. Eugene is a unique individual. He's been here longer, I think, than any of us in this chat. He's been around since 2018. Has a pretty big bag of LPT, 31,000, which he publicly states, and is a big supporter of the project. So, just to mention. Mike says, rumblings, this is why business process engineering is needed. Yeah, okay. Fair point about voting. Mike says, in the case of Livepeer Pioneers, they only received 55% voting because the Livepeer Pioneers team did not campaign in the Livepeer Discord. They published the proposal and failed to get the word out. They passed, but many probably have no idea who and what they are about. Good point. I think I even invited him up to do a water cooler chat, and it kind of just a missed high five didn't work out. Yeah, I mean, you are right, Mike. They definitely didn't campaign almost at all. They were not reaching for a presidential style campaign. Yeah, but they did pass with 55% of participation. So they reached quorum. So I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Sandra says, I see the Guardians being lobbied hard for future proposals. The problem with technical experts is Livepeer keeps hiring them. Right? Yeah, so, yeah, Guardians can be lobbied. I guess, yeah, that would be bribery or, like, backhanded payments. Which, I mean, we're kind of in a decentralized thing, so yeah, not like there's laws against that or anything. But yeah, and then the technical experts keep getting hired by Livepeer. I mean, yeah, Livepeer Inc. If I reached out to those guys to be Guardians, like I think I reached out to one, and you know, it's just like they're so busy doing that stuff. So yeah, interesting. Rumbling Thunder says, in a corporate setting, Guardians are known as proposal managers. Maybe. Proposal managers? I think Rumbling Thunder really wants people to use his app to do their proposals. But the Guardians...
Yeah.
I mean,
Jesus. Oh my god. I mean, you keep making like new proposals to try and get funding. Like this is like your fifth one.
it's my third, and so that's an interesting comment. So I was originally introduced to Livepeer Studio specifically to build apps onto, and then I was encouraged to talk to you guys. And the first conversation I had with you guys, Titan encouraged me to apply for the Innovators Grant. And since then, I've been treated like a public enemy, like set out to steal funds, and I don't understand it.
I don't think anyone's treating you like a public enemy. I think it just seems like you're trying to develop something to get funds rather than develop something to solve a grander problem and to provide a good product and user experience for people.
Well, that's interesting as well, because I can clearly see that the proposal that I first set forth has been cannibalized. And this one is based off of the comment of we should pay someone to do due diligence. So I'm providing, this is like, I'm a multimedia solutionist. I provide solutions in the multimedia realm. I'm a former cryptographic network engineer. Like, if anyone wants to ask, I mean, I find it very puzzling that no one has asked any questions about my background, has asked any questions specifically to the proposals that I've presented. You know, I can provide you with a link to my resume if you like.
No, I think on the topic of lid, you proposed a project that doesn't exist yet, not in a like a realistic sense, and hasn't driven significant traffic, and that's a retroactive grant. So I don't think it was cannibalized, but I think it was voted down because it didn't fit into the criteria of what lid is.
But that's
Which
why
is
I was
what's been
asking.
discussed since, is the fact that we might need an SPE to handle those sort of proposals because it seems like that's what the majority of the proposals coming in now are, right? It's projects that don't exist yet and need seed funding. So for
So,
that,
so
yeah, you do need people who can do due diligence, and usually that's people in like the VC realm who have a background in this kind of thing.
when that's, you know, everything that you said is spot on, which is why I'm presenting this, because I'm looking at it from the other side, from the people who are trying to get in, and it's almost like you don't want new people.
Yeah, but
I don't
in
know.
my
I don't
this is
know the
this
I don't know the protocols, and I shouldn't be demonized for that. But this is why I'm presenting an application to help establish protocols so that everyone's on the same page.
right, and this is just my opinion, but in my opinion, if you don't know what's required, like the basic stuff you need to propose to any grant, could be Web 2, Web 3, if you're lost there, then you need to take a step back and figure out what you're building and what you're doing before you apply for a grant like that. Because grants assume that you sort of know what you want funding for and you know what information you need to give because it's your project, it's your baby, and you understand it. If you don't know that, then like figure that out before applying it for a grant.
Well,
I don't think you need to
again,
be handheld
I
there.
find I find it interesting that you assume that I don't know, and no one has asked me any questions, not one.
No, I'm not saying you don't know, man. It's not personal. I'm saying
Well, what are you saying?
this new business proposal you're proposing, this like help for people to figure out what they need to do. Um, I would say that's like an extra step. You should know what you want. If you're applying for
Did
a
you read
grant,
it,
you
sir?
should know.
Did you, sir, did you
I
read
I
it?
I went through it briefly. I did not read the whole thing.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to continue on. Mike says, sorry, hold on. Which is out to be done. Hold on. Sorry. Oh, there's been a lot of comments. I gotta. There's inherent trust there, which is not the case here. Pre-polling in Discord is great. There's Sandra. Mike says, for all projects, the campaigning in Discord is a critical part of this submitting a Treasury proposal. How else will LPT holders learn about the project or the team members? That's a good point, Mike. Yes, I do encourage all Treasury proposals to come to the water cooler and talk about their stuff. But yeah, I mean, they did no campaigning and they still passed. So good for them. Let's see. That does include the Livepeer form pre-proposal, providing ample time for questioning. Instances, I have to drop the call. I hope to join more calls in the future. Where can I find the events calendar? Vincent, hey, sorry we didn't get around to any topic. Do you want to quickly just, you're new, I can see that. Would you want to introduce yourself, who you are, and what brought you to Livepeer?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so I've been around Livepeer a long time. I've been in the ecosystem of Graph Protocol for 3 years now.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, so I saw there were some open opportunities, and then I joined the Discord, and then there was a call going on, so I joined the call. So it's great hearing you guys.
Right on. We love the graph protocol. We're I think we're one of the first subgraphs on the
Yeah, it's true. You guys are one of the OGs.
Yeah, man, we love the graph. The graph is a great people, great team, great project. Yeah, we love them. So yeah, welcome to the community. Welcome over here, and hang around, and you'll get up to speed pretty quick. So yeah, we do these every week. As for the events, just honestly, like our Discord event section, you can probably find the big things that are happening. So this is a weekly call. If you click on the events thing, we have like a Catalyst hacking group on June 7th coming up, and if there's like bigger large community calls, you can follow along.
Cool. Thank you so much. I unfortunately have to drop the call now, but thank you for the introduction, and also thanks to everybody that's sharing all the helpful links to me in the chat room. So have a good night, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining, and thanks for listening to all the governance talk. Great. Okay, cool. Let's see what else. Currently only on Discord. All right, Vincent is out of here. Cool. Okay. For a while. Let's open it back up, or at least kind of come to some sort of. Is there any more opinions on the role of the Guardian going forward? It sounds like we have mixed opinions on the role of the Guardian, and which is kind of fascinating. I'm a bit flattered because like I created this. I thought of it. I didn't. This is not a new concept other than just I created the smart contract for it. But it sounds like it's going in the right direction of figuring out how we're going to do this community. So yeah, it sounds like a lot of people want the Guardian to be subject or technical experts. I think it's going to be hard to find technical experts that have the time to look into these milestones, especially if it's an unpaid role. Because I'll tell you this much, like, getting people to do things is tough to begin with. Now getting people with technical expertise to do things is harder, and then getting people with technical expertise to do things which take time and they don't get paid is, that's real hard. So what are solutions to that, right? Anyone wants to jump in and talk about that? Sandra says, right, go ahead, go ahead, Eugene.
Yeah, well, I'm obviously biased. That's why I'm trying to be quiet on this. But I'm all about incremental steps in the right direction, right? And not overcomplicating this. Like you said, if someone gets hacked, you get to protect the submitter of the proposal. If something happens, right? Like, let's say I get hit by a bus. Well, you can get your money back now, right? So this is a step in the right direction, and it's a no-brainer. Can you make it more complicated where you have administrative actions, and now you can swap out the addresses? In due time, the community will talk about it, right? When it gets a sufficient adoption, we can talk about sort of the next steps. But honestly, great job with this. Hopefully, this will be the difference for some projects. Wink, wink, passing and not passing. So thank you.
Great. Yeah, I would say that that's a good viewpoint. I think in general is just realizing these are incremental improvements. Like the Guardian role is brand new, and maybe now is not the time to be giving it so much development, and maybe saying like currently the Guardians on the Fanteasy project are not technical experts. We are the first set of Guardians to say, hey, listen, if the Fanteasy wallet gets compromised, if there's something fraudulent, or if there's, something goes unforeseen events, we finally have some sort of protection that the Treasury has some sort of way of recouping its funds if something goes wrong, right? Because the ultimate tragedy is the Fanteasy wallet gets compromised and the Treasury approves on the funds, the project, the Fanteasy wants to move forward with their project, and the funds are just disappear, and now nobody's a winner, right? So I think the Guardian in this proposal, the Guardian's role is definitely to protect the Treasury funds for unseen things, and we need to just continue forward with their role of what they mean in the future. So I think we'll just leave it at that and continue on with what this all means.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yes, go ahead.
Is it possible to establish I don't want to describe like a community wallet that acts as a trust?
Okay, and what would this trust? What do you mean? Like, what would this trust do?
So instead of awarding funds incrementally to a specific project, the trust could pay out whatever amount is determined. based on its usage and the need of the funds. So if let's say if I have to buy servers, then I can make a request to the trust specifically for that funding, and as long as it is within the amount that my project has been allocated, then the Treasury would award me those funds. This way, you don't have funds just sitting that aren't being used.
So, okay. And who would run this trust?
And that's why it was a question. That's why I said, I don't even know if a community wallet is a thing. I'm just throwing out ideas.
I mean, that's what the Treasury is, right? Essentially, the Treasury itself is a community wallet, right? That is it is governed by all the LPT holders. So, and we're just trying to distribute funds out of it. So I guess you could distribute into a smaller, and into an SPE, and then the SPE would be a trust in a way. I think the concept is there, but just figuring it out is in a decentralized, autonomous, cryptographic ways is interesting with randoms around the world, right? It's just quite entertaining.
I wanted to say one last thing based on something that Fanteasy shared 2 weeks ago. And that was that, you can correct me if I'm wrong, bro. You said you spent $60,000 on branding and I guess the design elements. And, this is the specific area of, that I'm a subject matter expert in. And, branding is definitely a subject that is not focused on. And to me, it determines the feasibility of any project. So this app would not only serve to analyze and assess proposals, but it would also analyze the strength of the brand as well.
Understood. Any specific things that you think are, not as great?
Excuse me, could you repeat that?
Oh, anything like specific, like that's kind of turning you off from Fanteasy as a brand?
No. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with your brand. I'm just
Yeah.
stating the fact that, this is the cost of branding solutions. And, through my participation over the last 6 months in this group, I can see where that focus is weak. And you came to this environment with that branding already established, but you paid for it. So, what I'm doing is articulating that there is value in branding and it's being overlooked. And that is something that can be capitalized on as a service.
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah, we use this company in Serbia called Akeo. If you guys are, I would give them a shout out for sure. And they do this as an overall package where you do brainstorming on the name and designs, and they even like kind of mesh what .com domains are available. Like there's a lot of value in that, and we even got a clickable prototype out of them. Definitely, this is something where I would not save money.
Yeah,
It's
and
important.
to me, these are the things that start projects off on the right foot, especially when it comes to deciding if a project is feasible to be awarded funding. Um, if you have a clickable prototype, then it gives a better vision of what milestones need to be achieved versus just a concept.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, that was a big topic. I think that was the only topic. Yeah, the role of the Guardian. Treasury proposals. Fanteasy, any last comments about your proposal? Like to comment on that, or that hasn't been covered?
Well, obviously, there's 5 days left. Again, my plea to the community is that, with understanding that there's a way to improve this, I'm asking you not to use sort of us as a sacrificial goat of the process, as it's also in my own interest as a token holder for this process to improve. But for us, timing is important, momentum is important. One thing also, 1,000 tokens I'm giving to my developers. One of them is on the call, so they know that I have that commitment, right? So they'll be asking for this. Hopefully, turn them into LPT holders as well. So let's get this across the finish line. Thank you.
I'd also like to mention the precedent being set. I wonder if, I don't know if it would, but the precedent being set is you now have to proudly hold 31,000 tokens in order to apply for Treasury funding if it's a private project, right? Kind of funny. But, okay, cool. Well, thank you, Fanteasy. I do appreciate your effort put into the project, whether, or the proposal, whether it passes or not. I do appreciate your efforts in the community and joining in on these conversations that affect the proposal, but also affect like the development of the Treasury. Right? This is Livepeer stuff that we're mostly talking about. That is, handling of Treasury funds, not just this in particular project. 2 weeks ago, we did a Q&A session with Eugene on what Fanteasy does and how it works. Now we're getting into interesting community discussions around how the Livepeer Treasury works, how governance works and funding works, and what we want to have happen as a community. So it's becoming an interesting transition into that conversation. Appreciate your effort, Fanteasy, into everything you've done. Thank you for being a long-time holder, supporter, and yeah, we'll see in the next 5 days how the voting goes.
Yeah, and thank you so much with everything.
Eugene, before sending you off, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
For the worst case that you're not that you don't receive this reward, what are your plans? Like, are you gonna give up building on Livepeer, or what is the worst case? I mean, I wouldn't call it the worst case, but on the flip side, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, sure. This is also a question that's where you can think politically. No, I'm not going to give up Livepeer, but I don't necessarily want to tell you this because I'm incentivized for this to pass. Because from the reason I am a community member for 6 years, that I saw this early on, the potential of this project. There's nothing else out there. There's just, for a simple reason, there's just nothing else out there that's production ready. As far as deep learning technology goes, even if you look at the like render project, top market cap project, right, in this specific domain, they're not that great. Let's just say that. And that comparison, I saw somebody switching over to Theta or whatever, right? I've looked into them many years ago, and honestly, you can't build anything on it. It's for me, Livepeer is the best technical decision. So I just hope I do that with the community, right?
Yeah.
That would be a huge momentum for me and huge like a boost in the trust,
Yeah. Because I feel like most people want you to succeed on Livepeer, but they are hesitant to give money for this, maybe. Like, but they will still want you here, I'm sure. But of course, what you deserve is also to, get the funding for this, in my opinion. But I felt like you were gonna build on Livepeer anyway, and maybe most people feels the same way, and so maybe they are.
Yeah, but I'm hoping that the thinking is not, oh, he's gonna build on Livepeer anyway. Why send him the money?
Yeah.
Or thinking,
Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
he's got enough of a stack of LPT, so he can just self fund this going forward, right? That's not, this type of thinking will not get me anywhere.
Sure. Yeah, I totally understand. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And most of this money will go into paying for developers. Like I've been talking to Livepeer Studio, Eric from Livepeer Studio. He said $500 an hour to get technical solutioning from Livepeer Studio. So it's like this money is going back into the community one way or another. I'm not taking even a single token from this grant to myself.
Exactly. Yeah, let's hope for the best. I think I have a feeling that this will pass because there's so much time, and some people also wait towards the end of the. Some people with a lot of votes wait towards the end always. Uh, I
Yeah.
feel like you're gonna pass, but that's just my intuition. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so too. I just hope like the whales are not just going to be like, oh, he's 5% under, so I'll just vote with the majority, so that actually independently make that decision.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, thank you for your support, by the way.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, with that being said, there are no other topics to go through. So any last comments that anyone wants to make around anything Livepeer? Okay, well, we'll go ahead and end it there. Thank you, everyone, for joining, making Livepeer the world's open and decentralized video infrastructure. Make sure to head to the Explorer and cast your votes if you're an orchestrator or if you are a delegator and wish to cast your individual vote. Head to the Treasury as well. Thank you all for coming. We'll see you all next week. Cheers.